Okay, hi everyone, this is Claire and today I'll be covering a topic on harmonization and non-harmonization. So you've heard this word going around I think for over 6 months now. The new developments that you see today that are sold and under the URA GLS side, they will be harmonized. If there's an en bloc situation where a development gets en bloc, then it will still fall under the pre-harmonized state. So because you have heard this term already and you kind of understand the differences, I'm going to cover a little bit, I'm just going to brush through a little bit more. But the main question that you want to answer is, will my unit be less favorable in a resale market? And today we're looking at pre-harmonized developments with a lower per square foot, but post-harmonized developments actually have a higher per square foot because then the developer needs to be able to earn a bit more in terms of the quantum by giving you less perceived square footage on paper. So let's get started. Just cover a little bit deeper into each and every part of it and what's the problem that we're facing. At the end of this video, I'm going to share a little bit about understanding what's more important in terms of looking at pre-harmonized or post-harmonized project. Imagine you're comparing between two and there are developments in the same region. There's one pre-harmonized, one post-harmonized. Which one should you go for? What's more important? And at the same time, giving you some insights on developer pricing so you can understand how it works before looking into a new launch to enter. Okay, so one, harmonized projects. What's the problem that we're facing today? Comparing pre-harmonized and post-harmonized. What is it exactly? I'll brush real quick for that. How does it affect your purchase in terms of the size that you're buying to, the total livable area that you're buying to, and looking at the price and quantum per square foot. Okay, and obviously if you're buying a property for investment, you think about the actual square footage on paper. Next time when it appears on Property Guru, does it look very small? How will it perform in the resale market? Because we look at quantum and per square foot, there's a little bit of differences in terms of that now already. So we need to be able to understand next time we hit the resale market, what should a future buyer be looking at? Should we be looking at price or should we be looking at quantum? Okay? So harmonization, what's the problem that people might be asking? Under harmonization, my unit becomes smaller in terms of the size, in terms of the square footage. So for example, today I'm looking at Trump Park 1033. 1033 includes aircon ledge. 1023 for Ori, for example, right, does not include the aircon ledge. So post-harmonized projects will definitely, on paper, the size will look smaller. Okay. The other one is under harmonization, the land cost that the developers have bought for is lower, but my per square foot that I'm buying is higher than my neighbors. So for example, if you look at Lentor, the whole Lentor region, there are only 2 harmonized projects right now. One, Lentor Mansion, which sold very well because the layouts are very good. Second one, also under harmonization, is Lentor Central, which just launched and was quite a successful launch as well. So the per square foot that you're paying for may be a bit higher, even though the land cost is lower. But then in terms of quantum, what is the difference? So today we're going to compare that a little bit today. Okay, so harmonization, what is it? We'll brush through real quick. All floor areas measured to the middle of the wall now. Aircon ledges are not counted. In terms of void area, if you're buying something that has a high ceiling, this void area cannot be chargeable by the developers. Okay, so how does that affect your purchase? We want to be able to compare actual square footage difference between harmonized and a non-harmonized project. So Ori is harmonized, it's under GLS program, so the land is under harmonized. So everything that you see here, RC ledge all not included, RC ledge not included, balconies included, is your 1023 square feet. But for Trump Park, everything here is included, including the aircon ledge over here, okay, which is 4.7 square meters. Okay, so if you compare Ori 1023, Trump Park 1033, what is the difference in terms of every single on-paper space and also every single compartment of the house, right? Trump Park is slightly bigger. This is a better layout for Trump Park, but it's fully sold out right now. So living room, everything, you add everything together. The Ori's balcony is slightly bigger. The master bathroom and the master bedroom is slightly bigger. But if you minus the aircon ledge, between 1023 and 1033, actually you realize that the usable space for the Ori is actually more. So there is some value in coming into a post-harmonized project where they don't count aircon ledge. You pay a little bit higher per square foot maybe for some cases, for most cases, but the space that you're buying into is actually more after you account for the aircon ledges. So next example, we want to look at a 2-bed 1-bath here, 527 square feet, 2-bed 1-bath, 1 kitchen. Okay, Hillock Green 624 square feet, non-harmonized. Lentor Mansion is harmonized. Also 2-bed 1-bath, open concept kitchen. Living dining area is also 2.7 meters. So actual square footage difference, if you break down into different areas and different compartments of the development, actually you look at this as about 100 square feet difference. But the usable space you're looking at is only about 3 plus. So maybe only about 30 square feet difference. But at the same time, a Lentor Mansion 527 square feet, the entry price is in the 1.1 to 1.3 million range. But the Hillock Green, because of the higher square footage, the prices transacted went up to about 1.57 for a 2-bed 1-bath. So that is something on the higher side really. But if I enter into Lentor Mansion, my usable space is actually quite decent at almost 50 square meters as compared to Hillock Green. As a future buyer coming in, I look at somebody who bought it at 1.2 for example. I can be able to exit at comfortably 1.4 million and is more palatable for future buyer coming in, versus if I had entered at 1.4 million over here as a non-harmonized project, almost the same layout, open concept kitchen as well, not much difference in terms of the square footage, but I need to be able to exit at 1.6 million to be able to see some good profit and be able to exit, at least cover my costs. So in this case, what's the value here? The value here is that actually maybe coming into a project that is harmonized, but knowing that the usable space is very efficient makes a difference, because even though on paper the size is smaller, your entry price is actually much safer in terms of your exit strategy. Okay, so now we come to Lentor Mansion 3-bedroom and Hillock 3-bedroom. This one in this case is exactly the same size, 1023 and 1023. Okay, so you get a 2.8 meters living dining area. Here is slightly bigger at 3 meters, but down here you get dry kitchen, wet kitchen. This one you get a yard and WC, and then they fit in a home shelter over here. That's a main difference, but the room sizes are comparable. Okay, then if you break down now into different areas, you realize that actually for Lentor Mansion, the same floor size the square footage in terms of usable space is actually more, and at the same time the entry price for Lentor Mansion is kind of cutting into the Hillock Green pricing as well. So coming into Lentor Mansion and understanding that actually a future buyer may be able to see the difference in terms of usable space, if we break it down like that, then there's value into coming into a post-harmonized project, right? And also in future, a lot of the developments are post-harmonized already, so the mindset needs to change about understanding what's the actual square footage that you're buying into. Even though it's 990, for example, even though it's 1023, actually the livable space might be more than a non-harmonized project exactly at 1023. Okay, so how do we choose in this case? Is quantum more important or is per square foot more important? So let's look at this two similar layout. One is Grand Diamond at 1098 square feet. The other one is Emerald of Katong at 990 square feet. So sitting right under 1000 square feet. Okay, this one comes with a 3 meter living dining area. I believe this is 3 meters as well. It comes with a store, which this one comes with the study. It also has a yard and WC. This one also has a yard and WC. In this case, Emerald of Katong 990 square feet, it's everything inside usable space. 1098 is actually inclusive of the aircon ledge over here. But at the same time, in terms of functionality, I feel that it's about the same, because you still get a store here. This is an open kind of store you can walk through both ways. This is the study, but you can also enclose it and make it a store, or you can hack down this wall to make the living room a bit bigger. Okay, so there's a marginal difference in terms of the layout, but the size is different and the quantum entering the development is different. Okay, so for Grand Diamond 1098 square feet, they have launched in, if I'm not wrong, 2023, and then 1 year later, actually there are transactions that happen at 2.75 million. So in this case, 2.75 million is accepted in the market coming to Grand Diamond if I want to enter this particular layout at 1098 square feet. Okay, and then there are of course others in the 1.7 range. Actually they all hit 1.7 range 3D. Okay, so in this case, if I enter at 1.785, I want to be able to, as a 3-bedroom some more, I want to be able to exit at maybe 3.1 million, for example, to be able to see some good profit, right? So the question is, how much must I sell? Then we come to Emerald of Katong. At 990 square feet, you realize that also transacted around the same period of time as when this person bought Grand Diamond, and because of the harmonization effect, because the size is slightly smaller, and even though the per square foot might be a bit higher, you realize that there are units that are in the 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 range. So it can go as low as 2.4. If you were the lucky buyer who bought it at $2.4 million, the question and the liberty to say how much do I want to sell is there, because if I compare a Grand Diamond 1098 and Emerald of Katong, both relatively good locations as well. One is near the East Coast, the other one is right at Dakota MRT. It still belongs to D15 for both projects. So in previous case, Grand Diamond, if I bought it at 2.785, I want to be able to sell at 3.1. In this case, the question is how much do I want to sell, because if I enter at 2.5 million, for me to make the same profit, I just need to sell at 2.9 million. And is it acceptable? Yes, because actually the developments in the D15 region almost hit 2.8 million anyway. So there is a good chance of exit. That's why Emerald of Katong also performed very well, because the quantum is a little bit more palatable for people entering. And for specific for the Emerald of Katong case, actually a lot of them came from like HDB upgraders. So in this case, today, if I compare Grand Diamond versus Emerald of Katong, if I actually enter Emerald at 2005 per square foot, the quantum is still lower than if I had entered at Grand Diamond. I would be able to see a good 300k of cushion in profits, I would say, cushion of profits over here, because there are already other developments that have already transacted higher. If I enter at 2006, enter about 2.5, 2.6 million, my potential built-in profits will be about 200k. If I enter at 2007 versus some people who entered a little bit later, my built-in profits are actually about 100 plus k. So the next question is, does quantum or PSF is more important coming into a world where there are more harmonized projects every single month? It really boils down to this concept, right? So this is the affordability gap theory. If I'm looking at coming into the OCR region, my main pool of demand coming in is really purely HB upgraders, right? After the 5-year mark, they want to be able to upgrade. So an average BTO price in the up and coming estates, if I talk about Bidadari, if I talk about Toa Payoh, for example, and I just look at 4-room, okay? Average 4-room selling price right now, Toa Payoh, Bidadari is about 1.07. I have, based on my buying price, I have 500 estimated proceeds plus some CPF that I already accumulated along the way at 180k. I will have about 864k. If I want to be able to upgrade comfortably as a BTO upgrader, I want to be able to make the down payment and stamp duty without additional cash. Because by then, if I'm sitting in the profits of BTO and I have been staying there for about 5 years, maybe I will have built a family by now. Then cash is important, right? Because you want to be able to pay for childcare and pay for the children's needs as well. So if today, like the previous example I mentioned, if I bought EOK at 2.4 million, I can sell it at 2.9 million. The down payment plus stamp duty for 2.9 million property is about 854.6k. So it's comfortable, right? I just need to top up another $6,000 to be able to afford this, assuming my loan is all good, without being able to fork out additional cash. But if today I bought Grand Diamond at 2.7 million, I want to be able to sell at least 3.1 or 3.125, that kind of range, for the same amount of profits over here. My down payment plus stamp duty will amount to about 1 million. So the difference is there. For me, between this and this is almost about 100k. Whether you have additional CPF accumulated, which I've accounted here, this is merely purely for additional cash that you have to fork out just to be able to buy Grand Diamond at 3.25 million for almost the same layout that you can expect. So coming into a post-harmonized project is very, very important to choose carefully, because next time your future buyers will be comparing the projects around the area and seeing which one is more valuable in that case. So another one to compare is between Emerald of Katong. At Emerald of Katong, the premium layout 1023 versus the Tembusu Grand 1173 3 premium plus study. Actually, if you look about usable space, the Tembusu Grand's pre-harmonized project 1173 is actually even more efficient and the price is almost the same. So there are areas where for 3-bedroom, smaller 3-bedroom, the one that is post-harmonized makes sense, but there are also cases where pre-harmonized makes sense because the layout is more efficient for the same price. So we got to be able to plot it very, very carefully. So layout is, especially in the OCR and RCR region where majority of us are entering into looking at private properties, then it's more important to study the layout and also study a bit on the pricing. Okay, so these are my conclusions for looking at harmonization. Looking at quantum in future may be a bit more accurate way to consider in terms of purchasing, right? Like I mentioned, affordability is key, right? Which is what my last point over here. Then what I was talking about earlier is floor plans and usable space are more important to study while looking at a purchase that will attract your future buyers coming in. Because if you're HB upgrader, you're coming in to buy a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, for example, you would likely want to exit in the next 5 to 10 years time if there are good options in the market at that point of time, and you will have already seen some good profit like you see in Jadescape, Park Colonia, Woodley. This kind of profits that you can get in these areas, you definitely see in the up and coming estates, for example like Lentor. But the holding period is important. So understanding the floor plans and usable space, especially when there are a lot of projects in the area, it's important to be able to choose the right one. So the last point I wanted to cover a little bit in this video is the insights to developer pricing. So there's this 3-phase theory that we have, and I just go through real quick. Treasure at Tampines, when they launched in 2019, they have about 2,200 units if I'm not wrong. But on the launch weekend, they only sold about 272 units. So that's about 10% of the entire inventory. But there's this 3-phase theory where developer strategize on their pricing. So in this case, I sold about 272 units on launch day at about 1,336 per square foot. Then because in terms of confidence, I'm like, I only sold about 10% of my units here. I still got a huge inventory of units to sell. So I maintain my price a bit in the 1,300 range. So those people who enter at phase 1, still okay, still quite pretty safe. Then I start seeing that every month I'm selling about 100 units already. And then developers start to increase the price. Right after, I have the very little inventory left, and based on that, based on the timeline that I have to sell all the units off, I still have a good runway to go to. So the developer has just increased the price straight away in the phase 3 period where the inventory is getting lesser and lesser. Okay, so from the PSN difference, phase 1 to phase 3, actually the difference is about 247 dollars per square foot difference. But we want to see actually what's the difference when you come into, for example, a 2-bedroom in terms of the profit that you gain from a phase 1 buyer, a phase 2 buyer, or a phase 3 buyer. So for Treasure Tampines, the ones who enter at the phase 1 period is about 1,003 to 1,004 per square foot depending on floor level. They purchase under 1 million mark. And then those who after that sold it after the TOP will have made about 200 to 300k profit. Then you realize that for people who entered phase 1, this is phase 1, slightly below 900k, but the phase 3 buyers, these are all new sale, where it means you buy from developer directly. Lower floor units, the ones that are 2 years later, the ones that are not so sought after probably, and are not taken yet, they actually were sold at about 1.17 million. So the difference here that you see here, 300k is basically the profit that the phase 1 and phase 2 buyers have made. So it's very important to understand how's the developer price of the units from phase 1 to phase 2, and then deciding at which point is good to enter and at what unit is more favorable to make the best out of your profit margin. So the other way to understand developer pricing is one, like for example for Treasure at Tampines, how kind of stage out everything. Once I see that actually my units are moving 100 per month, I will start to increase the price. But in this case, for high-rise development like Ori, like Alta, right? How will developer price the units? Logically, they will put in more premium on the higher floor, the top floor, because it commands a better view. So in this case, this is Avenue South Residences. When they launch in 2019, the lower floor units 6 to 20 over here, they make about 200 to 270k profit. Then we come to phase 2, where it's on the middle floor mostly. They launch at a later timing. If I entered 20 something to 35th floor, I would have made about 100 to 253k profit. Then we look at phase 3, which is all the way at the top. Obviously, there's a good sea view, there's open view all the way to the north as well from this facing. They entered at slightly higher at 2003 to 2004 PSF. Then the profits that they make for the same holding period is about 80 to 100 and something k. So if you look at the difference between phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, it's important to note that actually low floor doesn't mean no good. Well, of course, sometimes people like to sell high floor because high floor got good view and all that, but you realize actually the entry price from here to here, it can be 500k. And when it's 500k, then it makes a lot of difference. But for example, like I mentioned for Kingsford, their per floor jump is not a lot. If it's 5k, then I think it's also okay to go higher floor if you're buying this pop and stay. But if you're coming in looking to exit in the next 3 years or next 5 years, then I would say it's okay to go for a lower floor. So we want to understand where the premium is, last one. 2 is how much is the per floor jump. And 3, at which point do they jump a significant jump. Like for Alta Ori, they did it, I think, 3 times on the high-rise development. That means between this one and this one, I up 30,000. Between here and here, I up another 30,000. Between here and here, I up another 30,000. So it's important to understand where are the jumps so that you know to avoid that. So that is your cushion for profits as well. So the whole summary of this is why entering right is important. Then there are a couple of examples to show you why. 1, Copper & Newton, same size, same stack, just high floor, low floor. Phase 1, which is the lower floor units, they bought 183k cheaper and they actually profit 118k more. So here you buy cheaper, your capital is lower, but yet you profit more. Okay, same thing, Seaside Residences, level 1, level 20. Level 20 definitely command a better view, but in terms of the entry price that they entered into, the level 1 unit actually bought it at 257k cheaper, and at the point where they exit, which is exactly the same holding period, 6 years, 3 months, 16 days, the level 1 unit actually profit more. That's why I'm quite an advocate of lower floor units, especially when the entry price is lower and you see that huge jump from level 3 to level 17, for example. Is it worthwhile as an investor if you want to exit in 3 years to pay that additional 250k premium on a 17th floor? I would say, objectively speaking, no. And this is why. Clement Canopy, same thing, same size, same stack, low floor, high floor. There has been price increase in Clement Canopy. So from 1,003 per square foot jump to 1,007 per square foot. Yes, of course, it's a higher floor, but those people who bought at 240k cheaper actually profit more. Same thing, Principal Garden, same stack, different floor level. The per floor jump here is almost 100 plus k cheaper for 10 floors difference, and the lower floor actually profit more. So I hope this is insightful in terms of looking at harmonization and also looking at whether price quantum is more important or whether per square foot is more important. But if you're looking at new development today, it is even more important to understand the developer price strategy for you to be able to make the good call, especially if you're looking at a 3-year to 5-year time frame where you want to exit with the maximum profit margins. So here's my number, here's my social media as well. On my Instagram, you can reach out to me via Instagram, or you can pause this video and also scan the QR code to reach out to me, or you can give me a call and we can have a chat. And I hope this gives you a bit more clarity, especially if we're looking at launches this year. I should be doing most of the launches this year for the project analysis, and hopefully I will be able to give you some clarity through these videos on what to choose and what's the best choice out there in terms of different budget. Right now, I also have, based on the budget that you're looking at, desired unit option that you can consider in the RCR and OCR region primarily, based on a 1.3 million budget all the way to a 4 million budget. If you're looking at this range, any of this range, I will have one product that is suited for you to consider. So if you are happy to know more, I'll be happy to share. So feel free to reach out to me, and I'll see you in the next video.